Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer, and today I have a new guest, Dr. Vikram Singh, IPS, currently the Chancellor of Noida International University, and at one point of time he was the Director General of Police of Uttar Pradesh. In fact, he was there at a very eventful time. Dr. Vikram Singh Saab, Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar. God bless you, sir, and your channel.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind words. Sir, you have been in the thick of things ever since Atique Ahmed rose from gangsterdom to becoming a politician. You've seen it all. So, since time is of the essence in this case, I will leave it to you, sir, from which point in time you want to start and bring us up to date up until now. Take it away, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. I will try to condense and give you whatever is possible. Now, the deceased Atiq is the son of a Firoz Tongawala. Tongawala is a horse-driven carriage and something even much below the below poverty line. Now, his rise from being just a Firoz Tongawala son to rise to be the mafia king, not only of the former Allahabad, but the current Prayagraj, Eastern UP, Western UP, and you name it. His rise from a basic bread earner who the monthly earnings would not exceed maybe $500 a month, to something that would exceed billions of dollars. That is meteoric rise, needs to be studied by criminologists, sociologists, and those interested in how to decimate the mafia. A typical rise like that of the mafia in New York, from nowhere, suddenly you have the empire. 1978, the first case of murder at the age of around 18 years, till he was murdered 3 days ago, there were more than 100 cases registered against him. At a given point of time, Mr. Iyer, he was listed as interstate gang number 227 by the UP police. And his gang members figured in more than 100 such cases. Now the crime and criminality, Mr. Iyer, would go forcible eviction of houses, forcible possession of prized properties, contract killing, brutal murders, attack on policemen, attack on senior government servants, which I will try to explain and lay before you, the like of which people would not have even heard of. To unleash a reign of terror, and he was very shamefully aided and abetted by corrupt administrators, corrupt lower police officers and men, and also those who breathed oxygen into him were two political outfits of Uttar Pradesh. I would say more than two, because he contested and won from, I think, three. I would not like to name those political parties, but they are known the world over who these three political outfits are. 1995 was a year that is very important, when the then Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Miss Mayawati, was staying in the guest house in the posh and a VIP area of Lucknow. On an orchestrated and politically motivated attack on the guest house, Atiq and other henchmen and gangsters not only attacked the guest house, but set it on fire so as to assassinate Miss Mayawati, so that her opponent could have an absolutely unopposed field day in the politics of UP, but that was not to be. There were complaints to His Excellency, the Governor of Uttar Pradesh, and he intervened and brought forces from outside and ensured that Mayawati ji was rescued. But let me tell you one or two more criminal activities of Atiq and his gang. He would capture policemen who would go for routine patrolling duties, capture 7 or 8 policemen, and put him in his house and hold them at ransom. It was only after the intervention of the highest political people, begging them for mercy, begging them for their own credibility, he would release the policemen. This was very early in his career. Then another important crime that he committed was that he called off an adversary, skinned him alive, literally, skinned him alive, and threw him at the crossing and called up the police. There is the body of that person. Pick it up and do whatever you have to do. Ashok Sahu, a businessman of Prayagraj, overtook the vehicle of Ashraf. Ashraf again overtook Ashok Sahu's vehicle. Don't you know who I am? He apologized, touched his feet, and the next day he also went and met Atiq and apologized that I did not know Ashraf Bhai, and therefore I committed a huge mistake by overtaking his car. Atiq said, okay, I forgive you for this misdemeanor. But lo and behold, within 3 days, Ashok Sahu is murdered. Then in Lucknow, the capital of Uttar Pradesh, there is an important businessman, a very well-known enterprise, 𝙒𝙗𝙣𝙂 and Sons. And the owner, Mr. Gurnani, is a business person of repute. He goes, surveys his property, measuring into acres opposite the Sanjay Gandhi Postgraduate Institute of Medical Sciences, SGPGI as it is known. He likes the land and goes to Gurnani and says, switch off the CCTVs first. The CCTVs are switched off. And he says, this land till yesterday belonged to you. From today, it belongs to me. Sign all the papers. Otherwise, you'll meet the fate of all others who dare to oppose me. And go and complain to whoever you want to complain. And don't just think that the senior most officer in the police, the senior most officer in the administration will be, go and complain to the highest political entity in the state and see that you will get no help. In the case where he held the policeman at ransom, it was not the political entity of the highest level literally begged Atiq to release the policeman because it was affecting and impacting their credibility very, very negatively. Then I take you to the fact that Atiq felt that Allahabad, the current Prayagraj, Lucknow are very small for his depredations. So he went to Noida. Noida being in Western UP, the land prices are immensely much higher than they would be in Lucknow and Prayagraj. And he goes to the house of the chief executive officer and IAS officer, Rakesh Bahadur, an officer of the rank of the chief secretary, goes to his house, bashes up the security personnel and other people who were at the help, and indulges in vandalism. The IAS Association, a very strong lobby of senior bureaucrats, Rakesh Bahadur couldn't do a thing, and FIR, that is the first step to investigation, was not lodged, Mr. Iyer. You can very well see the depredation starting from the guest house case to burn Miss Mayawati alive, skinning a person and throwing his carcass outside, phoning the police that here is the person who's lying there, taking up anybody's and everybody's property who he feels that he has to have it. He owns most of the prime properties of Prayagraj, and nobody had the moral strength to check him. Now, Mr. Iyer, the next question is, convenient officers were posted in Allahabad. The administration looked the other way. His rise was meteoric, so was his fall. But the important question is, who allowed him to grow? The question is, there you go to the net, you will find Chief Minister shaking hands with his dog. Atiq taking his dog to the political platform from where the speeches are to be delivered. You would realize that that is a very sanitized area, and unauthorized people and certainly not dogs are not allowed. But nobody had the courage to ask him not to take the dog there. You would also like to analyze who are the political parties who aided and abetted him and his growth to what he became, a Frankenstein. 2 state parties, 2 regional parties, and everybody. Now, the tragedy of the whole thing, Mr. Iyer, is one Hyderabad politician said, a Muslim ex-MP has been done to death. Nobody mentions. He did not mention that he has more than 100 cases. He murdered Raju Pal, member of the Legislative Assembly, in the year 2005, 25th January. In broad daylight, gangsters chased him from one end of then Allahabad to the other end of Allahabad. And even before he could be hospitalized and given aid, he was pumped another round of bullets just to ensure that he did not survive. His fault. Late Raju Pal had defeated his brother Ashraf in the assembly election. That was his fault. But nothing happened to him. Again, the sensational murder that took place on 24th of February this year. Umesh Pal was a witness and he had to depose. But the good thing that happened was that he deposed under section 164 of the Criminal Procedure Code. And therefore, it was of no consequence whether he lived or he died. Of course, as it was a human tragedy and he should have been given more protection. But in the process, Mr. Iyer, 2 constables who were protecting Umeshpal were also done to death. No politician raised a hue and cry about the two deceased constables. Nobody offered condolences. Again, the tragedy was that it was Umeshpal who was murdered. It was a tragedy and an administrative and a lapse on the part of the police that it should have happened. Bombs were hurled in broad daylight. Assailants pumped innumerable bullets into these three deceased, the two police constables who died and Umeshpal. CCTV captured. And when the encounter happened in Jhansi of Asad, Atiq's son, and another shooter, Ghulam, they said, oh, people of a particular community are being targeted and killed. I wish they had realized, Mr. Iyer, that people of that community and the gang of that community and Atiq of that community also happen to be the most dreaded gangsters and monsters one can possibly think of. Look at the widows and the orphans he has created because of his depredations. The enormous wealth that he has accumulated for himself with the complicity of the corrupt in politics and in the administration. And to cry hoarse like this is absolutely uncalled for. There should be sympathy for the victims of the depredations of Atiq. There should also be a fact-finding committee. Why, after all, the meteoric rise of Feroz Tangawada's son from an absolute non-entity to a synonym of terror? Politics makes strange bedfellows. Party after party would go and do cover firing for him. And when he was being transported from Sabarmati to Prayagraj jails, words of wisdom, and who would know better than you, Mr. Iyer? Please don't indulge in any misadventure. This was the warning, concealed threats that politicians were giving to the police administration of Uttar Pradesh. If any other things will happen, Google and the satellite imagery would reveal who did what. Mr. Iyer, UP police and the police department, of which I had the honor of leading, are honorable people, maybe from humble backgrounds, but with lofty ideals. They don't commit murders, but if they are attacked, like anywhere in the country, the law gives you the authority to hit back, use minimum force so as to safeguard yourself and those others. And the provisions of sections 96 to section 106 of the Indian Penal Code, right of private defense, gives the authority to the police. I wish those wise politicians would see that it is in the exercise of right of private defense. Or do you feel that the politicians, especially those from us who belong to the very humble background, join the police to serve your illegitimate purposes, to serve your political agenda? Don't live in an illusion, sir. We are duty bound. We have sworn by the Constitution of India. And if you're sworn by the Constitution of India, we do only think, we don't even think of anything that is illegitimate, illegal, or immoral. You have a compulsion of befriending mafia, the underworld, and the dons because they give you three benefits. Number one, vote bank politics, politics of appeasement synonymous, wealth, and a couple of seats in the assembly and the parliament. Mr. Iyer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vikram Singh. Just a couple of questions, sir. See, he was being taken out of his jeep and he was walking to a hospital, and he was actually accosted by journalists, and he and his brother were answering questions. Two of the journalists, or three of them, they dropped their cameras, whipped out their pistols, and one of them literally shot him at his temple, and he died right there. I could see all that. Dr. Vikram Singh, what is the motive for these three people? The motive sounded a little weak when I read what they said they wanted to do. And also, where did they get those imported pistols, sir?
I'm so happy that you observed by your keen observation. These three boys, if you see the family background, they belong to the very modest means. And the pistols that they had were Zigana pistols made in Turkey, currently used by the American Coast Guards, Malaysian police, the Philippines police. They wouldn't be less than 10 rupees, 10 lakh, 1 million rupees each, rupees 10 lakhs per pistol. To have those pistols, to have those markings of Pakistan ordnance factories, and to stay in hotels in Prayagraj, former Allahabad, to have a two-wheeler, it comes at a price which I don't think they could afford. Now, to tell you the nexus, Atiq also was a recipient of the ISI-made weapons, the ammunition, and it is established that he was also in touch with the ISI and 𝙒𝙗𝙩𝙦𝙤. Now the nexus between it becomes more convoluted and complicated minute by minute. So the three angles that are going, perhaps even before he could spill the beans of anti-national activities, so that the NIA could step in into the investigation also and disclose the names of those gun runners, gun traders of Punjab who were receiving money, drugs, and ammunition and arms from Pakistan by the drone incursions. As also, you would say you would have to convert the refuse that I'm giving. Something around 15,000 crores of money stashed away in Western UP by corrupt politicians and builders, corrupt builders, unethical builders. They saw an opportunity, the gun runners, the politicians, and the corrupt builders, that this is one opportunity where if he could be removed from the scene, those thousands of crores of rupees would belong to them. Though it is too simple to believe, as you rightly mentioned, beyond the scope of these three assailants, that just to become famous, they should realize that whatever they have done is captured on television. It will be impossible for them to get anything cheaper, if not a death sentence, then a life sentence. They would not have even the scope of coming out of jail on the basis of what they have done. They are foot soldiers, but who is holding the remote, Mr. Iyer? That is a $1 billion question, and that will be known. And I'll tell you how. In the last 50 days, their movements, their communications, their bank balances, the funds received will disclose all the pertinent questions that you have raised just now.
Thank you very much, sir. And I know you have a bit of a time constraint, and I think I have 1 or 2 questions from our viewers. We are 17 minutes into the show, sir. I have 2 questions. I'll just ask 2 questions. The first
Please,
2
sir.
questions that were asked, if you don't mind, sir.
Please.
This is the first question. वो चिट्ठी के बारे में बताओ जो आतिक ने लिखा है. Jagannath Das wants to know.
Jagannath Das ji, namaskar. Chitti ke bare mein, like any person who is in the world of crime, would like to keep for posterity whatever people were about likely to harm him, whoever were perhaps beneficiaries of their system of loot, so that if at the end of the day somebody embarks on a misadventure, tries to bump him home, it will be the death of that person also. And this is how a mind of a criminal works. And to that extent, I would say, whoever could be behind a possible attack would be named in that letter. I would not like to hazard a guess. It's too simple. It's too complicated and sensitive a matter.
Next question, sir. This is the last question. Viewers, if you have more questions, I apologize.
Sure.
Dr. Vikram Singh has a very tight time schedule here. Steel Plant Babai wants to know, do you suspect the hand of an ex-CM of UP in the killing of Atiq as he was getting ready to spill the beans?
There are more things in heaven and earth than what you and I can ever imagine.
Wonderful, sir. Viewers, that's all for today, and I'm hoping that Dr. Vikram Singh will come back to our channel to give us a little more insight as this investigation proceeds forward. These are difficult times because the 2024 elections is being seen as a turning point, not just in India, but also abroad. They are trying everything possible to sling mud. And I think India is standing up magnificently. You probably have seen my other video about 17 Sikh terrorists, Khalistan is being captured in United States across 5 counties, meaning 5 districts. And it was a very well-planned operation. So things are moving. And Dr. Vikram Singh, thank you so much, sir. And we'll be back again. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.
God bless you, Mr. Iyer. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.